Every Tarantino movie hits that dead spot. And I'm not talking about that dead spot where a Japanese princess cuts off a man's head and his neck sprays blood like a fire hydrant. Nor am I talking about that situation where you need to jam an adrenaline needle into the heart of a drug-overdosed friend to keep them from hitting that dead spot. Nor am I talking about that dead spot where you describe one too many needlessly violent scenarios on the morning news and have your movie review segment yanked from the program. I'm talking about that dead spot where the movie's pacing seems to slow to a crawl, and the characters are spouting off flowery dialogue that seems to be about nothing and doesn't seem to push the movie's story forward. Now consider that scene in Inglourious Basterds where those folks are all sitting around the bar and they have to guess the name of the famous person that's written on the index card stuck to their forehead. Or that scene in Death Proof where we first meet the female cast and they're all sitting around that diner eating breakfast and talking about nothing. Or even almost every second of Bruce Willis's role in Pulp Fiction. Can we eat the blueberry pancakes? Don't you find the potbelly very sexy on a woman? Now don't get me wrong, I am a fan of Quentin Tarantino's movies, a big fan. I own every single one on either DVD or Blu-ray. This is just a pattern that I've noticed in rewatching them all. So it was no surprise to me when his latest film, Django Unchained, featured such a sequence. Django Unchained is the pre-Civil War story about a slave named Django who is bought and freed by a German bounty hunter in exchange for his services as an assistant. As the two men become more acquainted, Django reveals to the bounty hunter that he has a wife, also a slave, who he wants to save from a sadistic plantation owner played by Leonardo DiCaprio. The movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and the first 2+ hours of the film are absolutely fantastic. The countless throwbacks to spaghetti westerns are hilarious. The action is both entertaining and brutal depending on what the scene calls for, and the performances are all spot on. Leonardo DiCaprio even gives us the type of performance that we've all been dying to see from him again ever since Revolutionary Road. I'm not sure that he deserves to win, but I would certainly throw him a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars this year. He is terrifying. But that's when we hit that spot I was telling you about before, Tarantino's dead spot. The problem is that DiCaprio plays such a strong villain that once the issue between him and Django and the bounty hunter is, for lack of a better phrase, resolved, the movie seems like it should be over. But then we hit that dead spot. Now sure, I wasn't surprised to see a dead spot in one of Quentin Tarantino's films, but what makes this dead spot worse than any of his other dead spots is that this dead spot is the final 25 minutes of the movie. Instead of the credits rolling in a spot where you're like, yes, let's see it again, you've already got your hat and your coat and your gloves on, your keys in your hand, and a foot out the door. Look, I recommend this movie, I really do. You really should go see it. I just want to give you a fair heads up, the end of this movie drags.